What would you do if your own flesh and blood turned against you? Imagine waking up one morning only to discover that your son, your own child, sold your $800K house without telling you a thing. How could something like this happen? Was he truly trying to help, or was it something more sinister? The truth will shock you. You won't believe the lengths I went to before all of this came crashing down. And when I finally took action, my son had no idea it was coming. And what happened next? You have to stay with me until the end to find out. It was a crisp morning in early September when I first got the call. I was sitting at my kitchen table, sipping my coffee, preparing for another ordinary day. But nothing could have prepared me for what I was about to hear. "Mom, the house has been sold," my son Jacob said, his voice strangely calm. I froze. "What do you mean, the house?" I asked, my pulse rising as the words sunk in. There was a long pause on the other end, and then he dropped the bombshell. "I sold it, Mom. I thought it was the right thing to do. You've been struggling with the bills, and I just wanted to help." My heart skipped a beat. My mind raced. I had no idea what to say. You see, the house meant everything to me. It wasn't just a property. It was the place where I had raised my son, where I had poured my love and energy into every corner. It held memories of my late husband, who had passed away years ago. It was the one thing that connected me to everything I had lost. How could he have done this without even telling me? At that moment, the truth hit me like a punch to the gut. Jacob didn't just sell a house. He had sold part of my soul, and he didn't think it was a big deal. But I knew there was more to the story. Jacob had always been a good kid, responsible, hardworking, but he had his moments. But this was different. This was a betrayal on a level I couldn't quite understand. How could my own son think it was okay to make such a drastic decision for me? Did he not trust me enough to come to me for help? Did he think I was weak or incapable of managing my own life? But the biggest shock was how nonchalantly he said it, as if he was doing something for my own good. This wasn't just a simple mistake. No, it felt like a calculated move, a decision made without any consideration for my feelings. The anger started building up inside me, but I didn't let it show. Instead, I kept my voice steady, trying to mask the emotions running through me. "Jacob, I need you to come home. We need to talk." I hung up the phone, feeling like the floor had just been ripped out from under me. I had to get to the bottom of this, and I had to make sure he understood the consequences of what he had done. But little did he know, I had been preparing for this moment for months, the morning Jacob sold my house. I realized that the situation was far more complex than just a betrayal. It was the culmination of months of quiet planning on my part. I hadn't made the decision to act overnight, nor did I jump to conclusions too quickly. No, I had watched, listened, and studied the situation carefully. My son had no idea that every action he took over the past few months had been a part of a plan I had started long before he sold the house. It all began months earlier when I noticed subtle changes in Jacob's behavior. For years, he had been living with me after a series of personal struggles. It wasn't easy. Living under one roof after an adult child has experienced setbacks creates a kind of tension, and we both felt it. But I loved him, and I wanted to be there for him. Still, I couldn't ignore the nagging feeling in the back of my mind that something was changing between us. It was the small things, at first. Jacob would talk about helping out in ways that didn't seem helpful at all. He suggested I cut back on things, make the house smaller, sell off some of the belongings I'd collected over the years. At first, I brushed it off. I thought maybe he was just trying to ease my stress, considering my financial situation at the time. The bills were piling up, and I had been struggling with the upkeep of the house. But Jacob's suggestions kept coming, more frequent and more insistent. Every time he'd talk about reducing the house's size, it felt like a jab in the gut. That's when I started paying attention, really paying attention. I began researching my options, looking into the local real estate market, and gathering information I didn't think I'd need. Something told me that my son wasn't being entirely transparent with me. And after years of being a mother, I knew when something wasn't right, when someone I loved was hiding something. For months, I watched how Jacob interacted with the house, how he seemed to have an increasing interest in the property's value. He began to research it online, casually mentioning how the value had skyrocketed and how I could probably cash out for a good amount if I was willing to let go. I could feel the walls closing in. He wasn't just concerned about me or my well-being. No, there was something deeper going on. He was waiting for the right moment to make a move, and that moment, I realized, was coming sooner than I thought. But I had been preparing. While Jacob was busy working on his plans, I had been working on my own. I reached out to a close friend, someone who knew real estate inside and out, and together we began devising a strategy. I kept everything secret. I didn't want to alert him to my actions, and I certainly didn't want him to feel that I was plotting against him. But I knew what was at stake. I knew that if I didn't act, I'd lose the one place that meant everything to me. I made some tough decisions during those months, decisions that Jacob would never understand. I set up a separate bank account in my name, one that he didn't know about. I began securing all the necessary documents, everything I would need to prove that the house was mine, and that no one, not even my own son, could just take it from me. I consulted with a lawyer and learned the ins and outs of property law, just in case things escalated. I even went as far as to set up a backup plan, just in case Jacob sold the house behind my back. I had already contacted the local bank and prepared the necessary paperwork to stop any sale from going through. I didn't want to believe it would come to that, but I had to be ready. I had to protect what was mine. Months passed, and Jacob didn't suspect a thing. He kept pushing me to make a decision about the house, but I kept him at arm's length, never giving him any indication that I was taking my own actions. It was like a chess game, each move calculated, each decision made carefully. When he finally sold the house, I knew it was time to reveal everything. My son had no idea what I had been doing all this time. He thought I was just the mother who didn't understand the situation. But little did he know, I had been several steps ahead of him all along. It wasn't just about protecting the house. It was about showing Jacob that he couldn't control everything, and that I was still his mother, capable of making my own decisions. No matter what, the truth about the house wasn't just about the property itself. It was about what the house represented. My son Jacob didn't fully grasp the significance of what he was doing when he decided to sell it. To him, it was just a house, a financial asset that could be liquidated for immediate gain. But to me, it was so much more than that. It was a repository of memories, a place where my late husband and I had built our life, where we raised Jacob, where we spent our happiest moments. But Jacob didn't see any of this. You see, Jacob had no idea about the house's true value, not just in terms of money, but emotionally. Sure, he knew it was worth a lot, and he knew we were facing some financial difficulties. But he didn't understand the weight of that house in my heart, the weight of every brick, every room, every corner of it that I had lovingly cared for over the years. It wasn't just walls and a roof to me. It was a symbol of everything I had worked for, everything I had lost, and everything I had hoped for in the future. I remember the day my husband and I bought the house. It was a dream come true. It wasn't just the size or the location that mattered. It was the feeling it gave us, the sense of stability and permanence. We moved in, filled the rooms with laughter, and made memories that would last a lifetime. The kitchen was where we shared our meals and our stories. The living room was where we spent countless evenings together, and the backyard was where Jacob had his first baseball game. Every inch of that house was a part of our family history, but as the years passed, that dream started to crumble. My husband passed away unexpectedly, leaving me to raise Jacob alone. The house, which had once felt so full of life, now felt empty. The echoes of our conversations, the sound of my husband's laughter, all of it seemed to fade into the walls. The house became a reminder of everything I had lost, and yet I couldn't bring myself to let go of it. I couldn't imagine leaving it behind, as it was the last tangible piece of him I had left. Jacob, on the other hand, was too focused on the financial aspect of the house to see this. He only saw a property that was draining money, a house that required maintenance, bills, and repairs. He didn't understand that, for me, it was a place of healing, of holding on to what was left of my family. To him, it was just an asset that could be sold off to make life easier, a solution to the immediate problems we faced. But selling it wasn't the solution for me, it was the final straw that would break what little peace I had left. Jacob had always been a practical person, and I had always respected that about him. He made sound financial decisions, and I never questioned his judgment. But in this case, his practicality was clouded by a lack of understanding of what the house really meant to me. To him, selling the house seemed like a simple, logical choice. To me, it was as if he was erasing the last remnants of my life with his father. The memories, the significance of every detail. He couldn't understand that, and in that moment, I realized he would never fully appreciate it unless I showed him the deeper meaning behind it all. But it wasn't just about the emotional aspect. There were also legal and financial secrets that Jacob didn't know about. Over the years, I had put a significant amount of money into the house to maintain it, including paying off a large portion of the mortgage early. What Jacob didn't know was that I had also refinanced the house and invested in certain improvements that dramatically increased its value over time. While the house may have seemed like a burden to him, I had been quietly working behind the scenes to ensure that it wasn't a sinking ship. Furthermore, I had been setting aside money for a rainy day, using the house as collateral for certain investments that would help secure our future. Jacob had no clue that, behind closed doors, I had been taking steps to preserve the house's value, to ensure that I wouldn't lose it. If he had only taken the time to ask, to listen, I might have been able to explain all of this to him. But instead, he saw it only as a problem, a burden, something that needed to be sold off. What Jacob didn't know, what he could never have understood, was that the house wasn't just a financial asset. It was a piece of my heart. And now, by selling it, he had unknowingly threatened to tear apart everything I had worked for, everything that had kept me going after losing my husband. I had spent months preparing, understanding the full value of the property, and securing the right legal backing to protect myself. But Jacob, in his rush to help in the wrong way, had no idea how deep the roots of that house went, how much it was truly worth. He thought he was helping, but he was about to learn just how much damage had been done. The day I finally confronted Jacob was a moment I had both dreaded and anticipated for months. My mind raced with all the emotions I had been suppressing, the shock, the hurt, the anger, and I knew it was time to let them all out. But I also knew that I couldn't approach him recklessly. I needed to be measured, calm, and most importantly, in control. This confrontation wasn't just about the house. It was about everything that had led up to that moment and everything I had learned over the past months. I had asked Jacob to come home, and when he arrived, I could see the uncertainty in his eyes. He knew something was off, but he didn't fully understand the gravity of what was about to unfold. We sat across from each other at the dining table, the same table where we had shared so many meals and conversations over the years. But this time, it felt different. The air was thick with tension, and I could see Jacob shifting uncomfortably in his chair, unsure of what to expect. "Mom, what's going on?" he asked, his voice hesitant. He had no idea that I had spent months preparing for this very moment. He had no idea that every decision he made, every step he took in selling the house, had been silently tracked, studied, and calculated by me. I took a deep breath, trying to calm the storm inside of me. I needed to speak my truth, and I needed to do it in a way that would make him truly understand the depth of his actions. "Jacob," I began, my voice steady, "I don't think you understand what you've done." His face scrunched in confusion, and he quickly defended himself. "Mom, I thought I was doing what was best for you. I know you've been struggling with the bills and the house. It's a lot to handle. I was just trying to help." The words stung, but I held my ground. "No, Jacob, you weren't trying to help. You were trying to fix something that wasn't broken. You were trying to make a decision that wasn't yours to make. That house was never just a building to me." It's where your father and I built our life together. It's the place where you grew up. It's everything I have left of him. I could see his expression shift as the weight of my words began to sink in. He opened his mouth to speak but quickly closed it again, as if trying to process what I had just said. "I didn't know," he said quietly, his voice breaking slightly. "I had no idea it meant that much to you." That was the moment I realized how deep the disconnect had become between us. Jacob had been so focused on his own perception of the situation that he hadn't taken the time to understand my feelings, my connection to the house, and what it represented. In his mind, it was just a piece of property, a financial burden that needed to be dealt with. But to me, it was everything. It was a part of my history, my memories, my identity. I continued, my voice more forceful now. "You think you were helping, but you didn't ask. You didn't listen. You didn't think about what it would do to me to lose that place. And now, because of your actions, everything I worked so hard for is slipping away. I'm not just talking about the money, Jacob. I'm talking about everything that house represents. I can't just let it go like it's nothing." He looked down at his hands, guilt flooding his face. I could tell he hadn't realized the full impact of what he had done. For the first time in this entire ordeal, I saw regret in his eyes. It wasn't just about the house anymore. It was about the realization that he had hurt me, that he had made a decision that cut deep. "I'm sorry, Mom," he whispered, his voice thick with emotion. "I thought I was helping, but I see now that I made a huge mistake." I nodded slowly, letting the silence linger between us for a moment. I wasn't ready to forgive him just yet. The damage had been done, and I wasn't going to let him off the hook that easily. But hearing him finally admit that he had made a mistake, that he had hurt me, was a step in the right direction. "It's not just about the house, Jacob," I said, my tone softer now. "It's about trust. You broke that trust when you made this decision without talking to me. You didn't think about what I needed, about what was important to me. And that's something that's going to take time to rebuild." He nodded, looking genuinely remorseful. "I get it now, Mom. I really messed up. I didn't know how much this all meant to you." And that's when it hit me. This was more than just a confrontation about a house. It was about the larger issue of communication, of understanding each other's perspectives. Jacob had acted out of a desire to help, but in doing so, he had overlooked the emotional foundation of our relationship. It wasn't about money, it was about the values we shared, and he had to understand that. "I hope you do, Jacob," I said quietly, "because this isn't just about a house. This is about us, about family, and the respect we owe each other." For the first time since all of this began, I felt like I had been heard. But as the confrontation ended, I knew the road to healing wouldn't be easy. There would be more conversations, more apologies, and more understanding. But this moment, the raw honesty between us, was a turning point. And even though the future was uncertain, it was the first step in mending the broken pieces between us. After everything had been said and done, I was sure of one thing. Jacob had no idea what was coming. The months of planning, the careful strategies, and the subtle maneuvers, all of it had led to this moment, and it was time for me to reveal the final twist. This wasn't just about getting the house back or teaching my son a lesson. It was about taking control of my life again, showing Jacob that there were consequences to his actions, and proving to both of us that I could still stand strong, no matter what. When I sat down with Jacob that day, there was something in my eyes that I hadn't shown him before. It wasn't just hurt or anger, it was resolve. I had spent months carefully preparing for this moment, but what Jacob didn't know was that I had been working with my lawyer and financial advisor behind the scenes to ensure that no matter what, I would get back what was rightfully mine. Jacob thought I had lost control. He thought he had pulled off something slick, selling the house without telling me, thinking it would solve our financial struggles. But the truth was, while he had been making moves behind my back, I had been setting up my own game plan. The house might have been sold, but that didn't mean it was gone forever. What Jacob didn't realize was that I had made sure there were legal protections in place from the very beginning. After the confrontation, when the initial shock had worn off, I told him the truth about everything I had done. Jacob, I'm not going to let you take everything from me. You might have thought you were helping, but the truth is, you've been acting out of ignorance. You didn't understand what you were doing, and now, you're going to have to face the consequences. He stared at me, the color draining from his face as he began to understand what I meant. What do you mean? He asked, his voice barely a whisper. You didn't think I would just sit back and let you take the house, did you? I asked, my voice unwavering. While you were making plans to sell, I was making my own. I've been working with my lawyer and financial advisors for months. The sale of the house was never final. You sold it, but there are protections in place, and now you're going to have to deal with the consequences. I could see the realization dawning on him, and the guilt began to creep back into his eyes. What are you talking about? He stammered. You mean it's not over, the house isn't gone? No, I said firmly, it's not. I've set things up so that the sale can be reversed, so that I can regain control of the property. The money from the sale is frozen, and everything you did has now triggered a legal battle. The house is still mine, Jacob, and it's going to stay that way. For a moment, there was silence. Jacob didn't speak, and I could see the mix of confusion, shock, and regret in his face. He had thought this was a simple fix, a quick way to solve a problem. But now he saw the full scope of the situation and the full weight of his actions. You're serious? He asked quietly. I'm more serious than you could ever imagine, I replied, my voice steady. This wasn't just about the house. This was about you, understanding that there are consequences when you don't think things through. I've worked hard my entire life to build what I have, and I'm not going to let anyone, especially my own son, take it away from me without a fight. At that moment, I could see Jacob crumble under the weight of what he had done. The guilt, the regret, it was all there in his eyes. And though part of me wanted to feel vindicated, to feel like I had finally won, the truth was, I didn't want to fight with my son. I didn't want to destroy our relationship over a house, no matter how much it meant to me. But I also knew that this was a necessary lesson for him. He needed to learn that there were lines you couldn't cross, that you couldn't make decisions for someone else, no matter how well-intentioned you might be. I never wanted it to come to this, Mom, Jacob said, his voice breaking. I thought I was doing the right thing, but now I see how wrong I was. I never realized what the house really meant to you. I nodded, my heart aching. I know you were trying to help Jacob, but you didn't listen. You didn't take the time to understand. And that's what this all comes down to, listening to the people you love, respecting their wishes, and not assuming that you know what's best for them. As the conversation continued, I could see the shift in Jacob. He was no longer defensive. He wasn't trying to justify his actions anymore. He was learning, slowly but surely, that sometimes the hardest lessons in life come from our mistakes. But the final twist wasn't just about him understanding what he had done wrong. It was about both of us moving forward from this experience. By the end of the conversation, Jacob had agreed to support me in reversing the sale. We weren't out of the woods yet, but I knew we were on the path to healing. I wasn't just getting my house back. I was getting my relationship with my son back. And as much as the betrayal had hurt, I realized that the ultimate lesson here wasn't just about property or money. It was about trust, understanding, and the complex bond between a mother and her child. In the end, I got back what was mine, but more importantly, Jacob and I had learned something invaluable about each other. The final twist wasn't just about the legal battle or the house. It was about rebuilding a relationship that I thought might have been lost forever. Thank you for sticking with me through this emotional journey. If this story resonated with you, or if you've ever faced a situation where trust was broken, I want to hear from you. Drop a comment below and let me know what you would have done in my shoes, or share your own experiences with betrayal and family conflict. And if you found this story eye-opening, don't forget to hit that like button, share this video with someone who might need to hear it, and subscribe to the channel for more real-life stories and emotional journeys. Trust me, you won't want to miss what's coming next. Stay tuned and remember, family is everything, but so is standing up for yourself.